Happy Chinese New Year. Welcome to the Chang Chinese American Experience and Beyond Zoom lecture series. We're so happy to greet all of you. Also, I want to do a shout out for Dr. Tom Ham for his 98th birthday. Also, we have many people joining us, including many people from the United States, Cleveland, Ohio. We have Ann Poo with us. Also, from Dubai, Abu Dhabi area, we have Kissy Chi joining us. We also have people from Costa Rica joining us, and as well as people from Europe all over. And also our next speaker from Hawaii, Aloha. So this is a wonderful presentation of going home. And I am going to turn this over to the moderator of today, Dr. Bob Stein, who is a member of the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum and also the president of the Palama Rehabilitation Hospital, as well as a key member of the local American Heart Association, Dr. Bob Stein.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome everyone to this, I'm sure, wonderful presentation. And I want to thank Lily, as always, for her kind introduction. And we want to mention next month. And we have a very, very special program next month on March 15th. And I'm sure everyone will want to see it. It's going to be in honor of the 100th anniversary of the death of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. Died in 1925, and we're going to have a special panel discussion. And as Lily alluded to, Dr. Yip, who's one of the panelists, will be here coming from Hawaii. And we also have Leland Sun, who's going to be here as well. And he is, you may have recognized him from television. He used to be an actor in his earlier years, and he's a great-grandson of Dr. Sun. And we have other panelists as well. And then in April, we're going to have an equally fascinating talk, April 19th, on the CBI Theater. They call it World War II's Forgotten Theater, but some of us haven't forgotten. And we're going to hear about Claire Chenault and Vinegar Joe Stilwell. And we're going to hear about the exploits of the Flying Tigers. And we have retired Major General William Chen. And at this point, I want to turn things back to Lily, who's going to talk about upcoming events at the Chinese Historical Museum. Lily?
Yes, actually, because this is Chinese New Year, we have a program today and tomorrow in San Diego downtown area, actually the Balboa Park area. For March 2nd, we have Asian Pacific Historic District walking tour starting out from the museum. And we also continue to have the exhibition of Yu Chunming. March 8th, San Diego Chinese Art and Cultural Society will have their youth art competition exhibition at the museum.
Thank you, Lily. And we want to always thank our program sponsors, the PL Charitable Trust and the Shu Family Trust. And at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Yudan Wang from San Diego State University and the Chinese Cultural Center. She's going to tell us upcoming events. Yudan?
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yudan Wang from the San Diego State University Chinese Culture Center. I'm thrilled to announce our upcoming events. From January to March, we are doing the special exhibit in the center. It's by the artist Chunming Yu, and it's all about his oil paintings, about the traditional residence in China. And also, we are going to celebrate the Lantern Festival in the center. We're going to make sweet dumplings and do the gas riddles games. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be Monday, sorry, upcoming Monday, Friday, February 17th. It's the morning, 10:30 to 12. We welcome all of you join us. For those who have not been to the Chinese Culture Center yet, I would like to take the opportunity to give a brief introduction about our center. Our center is located on the campus, and we launched in 2019 by the San Diego State University. We are sponsored by the College of Education and supports cultural, historical, linguistic, artistic, and political knowledge and awareness of China and the broader Asian Pacific region. We open from Monday through Friday morning to the afternoon. We welcome everyone come visit us to see our exhibits and attend our activities. Thank you so much. And next slide, please. And here are the guidelines for today's Zoom program. After presentation, if you have a question, you have a comment, you may raise your hand or write your question in the chat box. Our co-host Elizabeth will call on you when it's your turn. And before we start, we will take a group picture. Please turn your camera on just before the beginning of the lecture. And after that, our lecture is gonna start. Please turn your microphone and your camera off. Now gonna be a good time for the group picture. Please turn your microphone camera on.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Okay, 1 second.
Like, no, my name is.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Great picture. I think gonna have 4 pictures.
The people, you go right on the left.
Thank you. Next one. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn back to Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Yudan. And we're going to be having our presentation now. I want to introduce, first of all, Susan Zhou, who is an award-winning journalist and filmmaker in San Francisco area, who has done films on the Chinese American immigrant stories. And she has produced the film Going Home. We also have Li Chin, who is a restaurant owner in Carlin, Nevada, and she has been an advocate for having the remains of the Chinese workers discovered in Carlin properly buried and memorialized in a dignified way. And as discussants, we're extremely fortunate to have our own Lily Cheng, who is the founder of San Diego State Chinese Cultural Center and is currently the chair of the board of directors. And we also have Margaret Johnston, who's the former vice mayor of Carlin, Nevada. And so at this point, I want to turn things over to Susan, and we're looking forward to this wonderful presentation. Susan?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm so honored to be part of today's event. Going Home was my production like I made about 5 years ago. Time flies. But I do feel the story is very fresh, especially for the people nowadays, for the immigrants. So this is a story, a typical Chinese American story, but this is also story for all the immigrants. And I hope you enjoy it. Basically, whatever I want to say has been included in this film. And thank you so much.
You know what's smart? Dinner on autopilot. Eat smart with Factor.
从拉布拉，我们祭拜了埋葬在那边的中国墓园的30位华工，以后我又重新回到 Carlin 的墓园，不知道怎么我还是想去再祭拜他们一下，讲讲我心中的话。 我在心里对他们要讲的话太多太多。我说真的。
Give me a moment. Let me adjust.
It's the perfect time to elevate your home at the Living Spaces President's Day event, where you can start fresh and save big on a variety.
带了埋葬在那边的中国墓园的30位华工以后，我又重新回到 Carlin 的墓园，不知道怎么，我还是想去再祭拜他们一下，讲讲我心中的话。我在心里对他们要讲的话太多太多。我说真的，1-2个月都没好好睡，就天天在祷告，天天在紧张。有时候在问我自己，我在紧张什么？一切顺其自然就好了嘛。可是我就是紧张，所以经过了1个礼拜的时间，可是我还是觉得不可想象，还在怀疑，我真的办到了吗？终于9月6号来了好多来宾。自从1996年，当他们发现埋葬在 Carlin 的这个事情以后，我也是偶然的机会从客人口中得到这个消息。
In 1996, a local resident here in Carlin scraped the top off of a coffin, and he called the sheriff, and the sheriff came and exhumed the body. In the end, we ended up with 13 burials. It was a forgotten Chinese cemetery. Preservation was excellent. They were in redwood coffins.
Straight row, just right next to each other. I was driving down the interstate going to Elko one day, and there was all these people. I thought it was very cool. Randy and Cammie had found the first one because they was leveling out to put their house. And it wasn't on my property to start off with. Then they started going onto my property too. They found the mummy just on the other side of the fence on my property. And they found the brick in the mummy.
我有位客人，他来吃 lunch 的时候，说我要不要去看一下，我就去看了。我心情就是很复杂。他们在启动那个棺木的时候，我觉得很对不起他们。我到了 supermarket 买了一件简单的东西，买了一些水果。幸好我这里有点香嘛，我回到那个地方，他们已经埋葬差不多100年了。我说我们需要跟他们做一个仪式，每一个人分了3支香，跟他们3鞠躬，表示很大的歉意。我顺便也告诉他们，我说我们会把你们安葬回去。可是我没有想到，等了20多年。我只知道他们是华工，他们是来到 Carlin 以后，帮助修建铁路，或是在那个金矿在做工，所以我就觉得这一批华工不简单。 天心王国来到这个美国，都是想过一个好日子嘛，对不对？可是没想到，就是怎么说，客死异乡嘛。
We did an initial analysis of the remains. Eventually, they were sent to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. They were analyzed by the anthropology department down there. The bones show that they had a rough life. Most of them had different injuries through their life. One of them, you know, the lower leg bones, the tibia and fibula, it had been broken and they had slipped past one another. They were never reset, they healed in place. So the guy would have had one leg that was 2 inches shorter than the other leg. He must have had a very bad limp the rest of his life, probably pain the rest of his life.
I really want to talk about our people and how you guys all come to celebrate the Carlin 13 people. These people were done wrong. They were brutally abused and worked so hard. And then they were buried in Carlin and they were forgotten. And they were taken away from us.
The archaeologists came over and they dug the bones, excavated them, and they came to the council and they talked about taking them to be studied for the state museum. They took them away in 1996. The city was told they would be back in 6 months. Apparently that didn't happen.
所以我就在等他们搬回来。我每年就问有关的朋友，问他们在哪里。他们刚开始告诉我是在 Reno， 后来就说是在 Carson City， 后来就不知道怎么又回到拉斯维加斯 UNLV。后来等到2001年的时候，他们做了一个 document， 就是纪录片。我在想，他们做完了以后，应该要埋葬，就是送回来嘛。可是他们没有。
Poor little Lee, it had just ate her up because when they left, she told them, you're going to go for a little while and then you come home. And that didn't happen, and that was just wrong. Totally wrong.
Carlin was an important place on the railroad, and it never was a large town, but it was important because and so you had a lot of railroad workers here, including Chinese.
The railroad is our past. We were the division point, so families moved here with the railroad. They stayed with the railroad because it was a turnaround. It had a roundhouse, and the Chinese workers turned them by hand.
We know the identification of 2 of them. The others, we don't really have any idea. One of them, he was beaten to death. He had a broken jaw, broken ribs, broken pelvis. He had a terrible death. There was a newspaper account of a guy and they think that maybe he had dementia. And he was the only one not found in a redwood coffin. His was just a box, rough box. He was sort of sprawled out in it, what you might expect if it was a body that was really decomposed. People didn't really want to handle it. But most of them probably were laborers. Some of them still possess the Chinese braid, the queue. A material put on it to extend his queue so it went down further. There was a smoking pipe, and there were some grave goods with them, offerings such as Chinese olives, some peanut shells. There were meat offerings.
You know what's smart? Dinner on autopilot. Eat smart with Factor.
The Chinese people dug these 100 years ago with picks and shovels, and they're huge, and the work is perfect. And those tunnels are still used today. I think they did a really good job. I don't know if they should have been moved to start with, but nobody knew they was there. So that's not good either.
My family came to Carlin in the 1920s. I'm fourth generation railroad brat. My grandfather and my great-grandfather all worked for the railroad. My dad and my brother worked for the railroad as well.
And the Chinese workers did all these rails.
What's that?
Another spike.
Oh, but it's a new one though.
Yeah. I met Lee Chin in the 80s. They came to Carlin and opened the restaurant. And we got to be friends over the years. She came to me and talked about the Chinese that were taken away. I wasn't living at Carlin that time. That was in 1996. They found a forgotten cemetery up here. And Lee came to me and she said, "Margaret, is there anything you can do to help me get them back?" And I said, "I don't know, I can see what I can do." I called UNLV and they said, "Yes, they're here, but we need to have an MOU with the city of Carlin to take them and we need the permitting done." Well, yeah, that's normal, but there's identification with the normal moving of human remains. Somebody knows who that is. These, they did not have identification. They had 3 identifications for sure. So the permitting's like, okay, this is something we've never done this way. And it took several months of back and forth, and this needs done and that needs done to get the paperwork, but they were basically sitting on a shelf down at UNLV. We focus on what we're doing. And to some people, those were just bones. But they weren't just bones, they're people. The right things bring them home.
Transporting bodies, which is not an easy thing to do. In fact, the state of Nevada apparently hasn't run into the issue before. My wife Donna and I went down to Las Vegas and we rented a U-Haul trailer because 13 bodies plus the artifacts boxes was quite a load.
Tim went on his own dime down and got them because he felt so bad, and he brought them home.
Loaded them in the back of the U-Haul trailer and drove back to Elko. We didn't get stopped by Highway Patrol, which I was worried about.
Tim called me 4 days before we were supposed to intern. He said, "Margaret, you know they're not in coffins." I said, "What?" He says, "They're in like plastic cardboard boxes." I'm like, oh no, we can't do that. So I'm like, oh wow, how are we gonna do this? I got 4 days. I started calling, I called Gary Wright, called Les Tracy, he's another good old boy. And I said, guys, can you give me a hand here? I need to build 13 coffins before we reinterring these guys. So then I went to Home Depot and I'm like, okay, I've got $500 cash on me. Let's go see what we could do. So I asked the manager, can you help me? Yeah, I can help you. He said, give you everything you need. I said, what? Home Depot donated to us high quality plywood for free. All the nails, all the screws. And so we brought all the materials home. Janice Holmes put $150 for the paint and whatever else materials we needed. We were working 4 days, sun up to sundown, getting this done. You still find the goodness in people. That's the good thing about small town America. Donetta Skinner, she's one of the old mayors in Carlin. She says, I know where there's a hand cart. Well, that'll be cool. Where's it at? She's like, oh, it's down Pine Valley. Okay, we go get a trailer, hook it up, and her and I drive down Pine Valley.
Carlin 是很小很小很小的镇，什么都没有的。但我一到了那个坟场一看，那桌子摆的好好的。
Usually when you go to a funeral, you come away sad. I wanted to jump for joy. They were home.
There was a time
they come home, finally.
In your life when you had no expectations, you saw the day before the sunset.
Welcome back, citizens of Carlin. I am Mayor Holbrook, and I am honored and thankful you have returned. You've been gone too long. Your broken bones tell a story of a time we should not forget. And your being here today has made us remember the past. Lee Chin, will you help these men find the peace and rest they deserve?
1996, and I find these people buried in Carlin. Have to taken off, move to UNR, Carson City, UNLV. I know one day have to bring back, but I wait a long time.
去年12月的时候嘛，还是11月的时候 ，Elgo Museum 一位先生打电话联络我，他说他会帮我把所有的那个华工的衣服送回来，的条件是要把一些衣物要放在 museum 展览。我说没有关系，只要他们回来安葬就可以了。所以我在等这位先生的消息，也是等了几个月没有消息了。
When you knocked, the lamp that shattered, but it didn't really matter. It was replaced before.
You know what's smart? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Eat smart with Factor.
For your eyes. But time, it will leave you behind. In time, Yes, time, it will leave you behind in time.
跟做梦的一样，我没有想到能办成。先祖们，你们好好安息吧。
But time,
That's a human being.
it
He
will
needs respect. Didn't need to be brought back home.
in time. Yes, time, it will leave you behind.
They're some of Carlin's first residents. And like I said, they built this town. They're the ones that cleared the land. They're the ones that hauled in the building materials, and they did most of the work.
Carlin's 150th birthday this year, and as part of our celebration, we nominate people who have made Carlin strong over the last 150 years. 13 of you to our list. But not only did you make Carlin strong in life, you've made us strong in your passing. And though we have forgotten what you each did individually, this community and the railroad that ran through it testify that you were here. Thank you for allowing us to disturb your rest. And now your work here is done, and it's time to let you rest in peace.
It's very nice to get them reburied with honors, and now they'll have a resting place. Hopefully we'll get a monument eventually here.
We know pretty well that between 11 and 13,000 Chinese were employed by the Central Pacific at its peak. Now, how many were still employed by the time we got to Promontory Summit in May of 1869? We're not sure. The Central Pacific Railroad estimates about 5,000 to 6,000 people were still employed at that point, Chinese workers. A lot of people were, oh yay, May 10th we're done. Like, no, this is a living, breathing railroad, which means every single day you need to be out there maintaining it. And that's where the Chinese, I felt, for 40 years potentially, were the mainstay. They were the ones that were out there every single day, 6 days a week, maintaining that railroad in the most barren, isolated terrain you have in the American West. The number of Chinese workers who died on the railroad is really truly unknown to this day because the railroads didn't keep really great records of death. I just feel personally bad it took 21 years to get them back home, or at least back to their burial place. But that's not an uncommon story. That these are people. There's a view of them as objects of study.
我们这边有一个 fishing pond， 后来他们就做了一个 Chinese garden， 他们曾经在那里面种了很多菜。
They gardened and grew vegetables to feed the railroad workers. That's how they came in here to be in that time.
I've tried to grow a garden here. It's very hard. But they say the Chinese grew massive crops and fed everybody. And I wish I knew how they did it.
We cannot change what was done in the past. We can change what we do in the future. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Chen will be leading our opening dedication ceremony, and Margaret Yi, would you guys please come up?
I am so grateful and the Carlin city, and welcome the oldest city come back to their home. Thank you for all your great help for our ancestors. Thank you very much.
Everybody who's here has a hand in today's celebration. When Carlin was founded in 1867, there were already Chinese here. They're already living here. And by the 1870 census, there were 41 listed in the census, including 4 women. The oldest was a 52-year-old cook, and the youngest was a 14-year-old boy. By 1880, the numbers had grown to about 60 in Carlin, almost 200 in Elko County. In 1882, they passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. In 1890, there were no Chinese in Carlin. There were no Chinese in Elko County. That's the effect that laws have on our population. We should always remember that our country is built by people from somewhere else.
We're 150 years old this year, our town. The railroad brought us here. They were good to us for a long time, and they've left us. Born and raised here, and I love it, and I hate to see it fall apart. So we're gonna fix that. We're going to the future.
刚来这里时候，说真的，并不喜欢这个城市，因为太小了。那时候英文也不好，后来我就开始慢慢的融入他们的社群。到2年的时间，那个木头已经开始有毁损的迹象，所以我们就计划要弄一个好一点的石头，希望可以永久的保存下来。我的客人 Brian Jackson 他 offer 他说我可以帮你。我没有想到他真的开车跑到爱达荷去找这个石头，去了好几家，找到一个很大的石头，差不多有2吨那么重。About 5 foot tall, 5 foot wide. 7月的时候，到了场馆，告诉我，他说 Lee, look outside. 我心里在想，外面有什么可看的？我转头一看，他那个大卡车后面拖了一个大石头回来，那个铜板已经都镶在那个石头上面。哇，我高兴的跳起来。先祖们，你们辛苦了，你们所有的付出已经得到回报。希望以后的岁月有更多的人知道你们所付出的辛劳。我住在韩国25年，以后我来到美国。来到美国第1年，我住在 Elko， 然后我先生看中一个餐馆，就是现在我开的这个餐馆。所以我在这个乡下，有3个孩子，把他们养大，他们现在都有自己的工作。这也是 Carlin 在背后 support 我才有的结果。2002年，我餐馆起火了。那天非常的冷，好多消防人员，他们不停的煮咖啡，叫我放心，他们一定要抢救所有的东西。最让我感动的就是 Fire Chief Will Johnston 把我先生放在场馆的那个关公烧得黑黑的，他捧出来交给我，所以他们对我的恩情啊，是不能用言语可以形容的。我爸爸是18岁的时候去到韩国，我妈妈是6岁去到韩国，跟着我外祖父，所以我是第2代华侨。我父母的最大的心愿是有一天，100年以后，希望能回到家乡，可是他们没有那个机会，因为那个是韩国的政策。还没有开放跟中国。 我父亲他真的很想家的，他常常跟我讲一些老家的故事给我听。我外婆也讲山东永清县故乡的事，那种思乡的心情啊，真的没有人会明白的。所以我加州也有家，可是呢，对我来说是个暂时的家。可是Carlin这个家，是我永远的家。
Well, Susan, that was a wonderful movie.
Thank you.
And we all just loved it. At this point, do you have other slides to present?
Yeah, I'd like to share something behind the scene about this production. And I think back to May 2018, that was the first time I heard about this rebuttal. And the battle would be happening in Carlin, Nevada. Honestly, I have no idea where it is. So I took the Amtrak train for the first time heading to Carlin, Nevada, and I was low. I got off at Elko train station. Actually, there wasn't any train station. It just stopped in the pitch dark area. Nowhere. It's nowhere. So ever since then, I started my journey to digging this story. I'm very grateful for all the people, including the people from Carlin, people from Salt Lake City, and people from the San Francisco Bay Area. They all support me in this production. So that's how I made this film. Yeah. So I have some slides recording some moments about my production. I can share that with you guys. So before I show that, I would like to let you know I'm also working on some other projects in addition to Going Home. I also made 1 Mile Work, which is about the Monterey fishing village history, and I'm also doing a feature document about that. In addition to that, I made a trilogy, The Builders of the Iron Road, which reflects the railroad history the Chinese railroad workers contributed to. There are some other stories I'm working on about the Chinese American veterans in World War II. And also, yeah, so basically Chinese American history. I think this is my gold mine because there are so many stories never been told before. Okay, please, next slide. Yeah, that's this Google map shows how far I have gone, living in San Jose, California, almost the heart of Silicon Valley. I drove to Carlin, Nevada, That's about, one way is about 470 miles. And every time when I got Carlin, it didn't hurt for me to extend my journey to Salt Lake City, which would be another 270 miles away. So basically for the round trip from San Jose to Salt Lake City, it was about 1,500 miles. Okay, so I made those trip for at least 15 times, in producing this film. I feel like it's really worthy to do this story. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Well, this is the old picture by Li Zhu and the other, archaeologists. It was taken in 1996, I believe. That's how Li, for the first time, heard about the 13 Carlin 13, right? Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. Well, this is I have to say something about Carlin. If you check it out online, you can see Carlin actually is a very famous place in the history, especially in the history of the West. The motto of Carlin is called "Where the train stops and the gold rush begins." Well, for many of you may know the gold rush because it started in California, right? However, Carlin used to be the start westward to California. So they were like 40 miles desert without water, without the human source, without anything. Well, just desert. So you keep on going all the way to the west, then you will arrive in California. So that's how Carlin is located. And I was amazed to find out how barren those desert was. His next slide. Well, yeah, this is a picture from the California Trail Interpretive Center. This center is located in somewhere between Carlin and Elko. I highly recommend you to check it out sometime when you have time. Yeah, it's really worth your visit. It shows the history, how the people, immigrants, traveling west by wagons and overcoming all the challenges. It's very hard to survive in this journey to the west. Okay, next slide, please. This is our picture showing the Chinese railroad workers camp, labor camp along Humboldt River, somewhere in Nevada. I believe that's a historical picture. Okay, next slide. Well, those two pictures are magnificent. On the top is a picture of Mountain Pilot. Mountain Pilot is roughly located at the boundary of Nevada and Utah. Every time driving on Highway 80 East, when I saw Mountain Pilot, I always know I'm approaching Salt Lake City. And the lower part picture is about the Great Lake. I always made a stop by the lake, by the Great Salt Lake. That was amazing. So those gorgeous views gave me so much inspiration on my way to the remote area. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, the two bridges that's located in somewhere nearby Carlin. And Li Zhu told me she always went there fishing, right? They have big fishes over there. That's beautiful. Okay, next slide. Well, this is a picture make me so impressed. This is one of the picture showing how Li Zhu made the first offer and worship to the Carlin 13 when they were first digged out in 1996. You can see how humble those offerings were, but this is all Li Zhu could contributed to. And she almost brought everything she could: banana, other fruits, snacks, or even some incense. Okay, so when you see this picture, you can review how Li Zhu contributed to the ceremony, the three ceremonies for the reburial in the film. That's magnificent. That's phenomenal. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, continuing, these are pictures showing how Li Zhu make the offering. Say this is very humble offering. She could just put some old newspapers on the ground, and inviting people, make the offerings, burning the things. Even though this is a very very beginning, very initial offering, but I can feel her heart. I can feel people's curiosity and people's love to to the history when the history was just digged out in Carlin. Next slide, please. Well, yeah, this is two pictures about the cemetery, the forgotten Chinese cemetery, digged out in 1996. And to your right side, you can see a brick. We Chinese call it tombstone. Tombstone, which always inscribed the dead people's name, the origin. So those Chinese characters show the dead people's name and the year. The year was 1924. Yeah, he died in 1924, and he also showed he came from this person came from Taishan, Guangdong, China. Yeah, and he died by the age 29 years old. Okay, yeah. Next slide, please. Well, this is a letter. I can't forget it. This is a letter displayed in Carlin Museum. This is Li Zhu drafted this letter and asking the UNLV to return those Carlin 13 bonds in like 22 years. Okay, so that's how this letter shows me how Li Zhu persisted in asking those Carlin 13 back. Because for her, this is a coming home. This is not something, not something right. They've been keeping along somewhere else for 22 years. Yeah, next slide, please. Well, to your left side, that's Li Zhu, in 2019, and her restaurant. And to your right side, that's Margaret, two Margarets. One Margaret from Salt Lake City. She was the president of the Chinese Railroad Workers Descendants Association. And to your left side is Li Qing, who's from the San Francisco Bay Area. She's my longtime supporter too. Okay, we took this picture outside of Qing's Cafe. Qing's Cafe is kind of, such a warm place for me and in my memories. And it's always a social center in the small town of Carlin. Okay, next slide, please. Well, that's continues those people showing the people, and standing in the middle, the lady in red, Brenda Wang, who's also from the San Francisco Bay Area, and she's also from the San Jose Chinese Historical Culture and Historical Project. My longtime supporter. Yeah, without them, the film is impossible. Okay, next slide, please. Well, this picture is momentarium. Well, on this picture, to your right side, you can see Judge Uno and his wife. Judge Uno unfortunately passed away in 2024, and Judge Uno was the earliest minority judge in the history of Utah. And next to Judge Uno, standing in the middle, is Judge Michael Kwan. Actually, Judge Michael Kwan also passed away, and he passed away in 2020. Well, this is very unexpected for us, for all of us, because he's the person behind the whole story. He's the person to promote the event, promote the Carlin story. I remember the day when I finished my first interview from Carlin and sit with him in Salt Lake City at Zulin's house. I proposed to him, I would like to make a documentary about this Carlin 13 story. And almost immediately, she personally agreed with me and promised to support me. So I got the first funding, and that was the only funding I got from him, from the Chinese Railroad Workers Descendants Association. And to your left side, the lady in green is Xiulin. She's from Salt Lake City, also the director from the Chinese Railroad Worker Descendants Association. Next to her is her husband, Pat. Well, those couple are phenomenal. I always stop leaving their house in Salt Lake City. That's my home away from home. in addition to Carlin. Okay, so behind them is Margaret. Margaret, I can thank you more. Okay, next slide, please. Well, this is a snapshot from Margaret's kitchen. This is show. I just randomly take this picture with my iPhone. This is show how previous city council member Margaret make for a month, $170, something like that. That's how much she made. Well, it shows me the people in Carlin, they were not rich, but they have so much, niceness, kindness. They're always generous in supporting the people, the community. That's make me so impressed. Next slide, please. Carlin kids. I remember the May 2019. I remember 2019, yeah, because 2019 marks the 150 years anniversary of the Golden Spike. So Brenda and some of my friends, we stopped by Carlin on our way to Salt Lake City, and we were invited to dance with Carlin kids, the chicken dance. That was my first time dancing with those kids. Well, those kids were so adorable, and that's a happy moment for me in my production. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Palisades Canyon. That's a landmark. I think that's a landmark nearby Carlin Canyon. And in the film, you can see how magnificent those canyon is, and especially with the train driving through the canyon. It didn't change a lot. It didn't change much, since 19th century. So Margaret took me there, and for filming, and I remember I got the most adventurous shot, because she led me to a turn of the railroad, and right after I take this shot, a train came. So I was so shocked and scared a little. Okay, but I did have a great shot. Thank you. Next slide, please. Well, this is a old picture taken in 1969, I believe. It shows the Carlin Canyon, how Carlin Canyon looked like. Well, you can see the landscape didn't change a lot. Yeah, next slide, please. Well, this couple is what I introduced just now, Judge Uno and his wife. I conducted an interview with Judge Uno and their Salt Lake City home in 2021, I believe. I didn't imagine that, like, about 3 years later, she passed away. Judge Uno actually was a railroad worker, working on the Carlin Railroad when he was only 14 years old. I was amazed to know that. And the Judge Michael Kwan did mention the Judge Uno in his presentation. In standing out in front of the cemetery in Carlin. Judge Uno, survived in the internment camp in World War II, and he shared his experience with me, shared his family story with me generously. So when I made this film, Going Home, I didn't know many nice people. I didn't know a lot of hidden history I never know before. So that for me, it's very rewarding. Next slide, please. Those are two pictures I took on the day when the Ribeiro was dead. Holding the camera, standing by the big ditch. I can't express how I felt, but I do remember my first impression of when I saw the red hand card. The red hand card, shows me it's something celebration. It's not a funeral. It's not a Ribeiro. Carlin people are celebrating the return of the 13 people. They are joyful. That's to my surprise. This is such an amazing story. And from that moment, I decided to make a documentary instead of just to do some live news report. And it kicked off my journey of 3.5 years journey of filmmaking. Next slide, please. Yeah, here are some information about the Carlin 13 archaeological research records. From the records, you can see some of them, or should I say, each of them had suffered trauma when they're in their lifetime, and some of them have very serious injuries, not one but multiple injuries. So this shows how heavily abused they were when they were 9. Next slide, please. Yeah, same thing. The muscle tissue on the remains showed they were heavy labor workers. Next slide, please. So among Carlin 13, maybe 1 or 2 of them, I believe 2 of them have suffered was abused to death. They are proved by archaeological research, by X-ray research archives. So I was shocked to know that. But this is the Black history in the history of America. Okay, next slide, please. Well, so this is my contact information. I have my YouTube channel, which is called the History Channel for Chinese Americans on YouTube. You can check it online. Subscribe to my channel, please. And also, I have my WeChat channel, and you can scan the barcode. Also, I provide my email address to your right corner, so you can email me. And please feel free to follow me and to give me your feedback. Actually, going home, I did upload it to YouTube channel, so you can check it again, and you can also share it with your friends. I truly hope you share this story with your friends, because this is not just a story for the Chinese American. This is a story for all the immigrants. This is a story for all the Americans. So we all contributing to making the history. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you very, very much, Susan. This was just a lot of fun. And before I call on Lee in about a second, I just want to point out, I want to emphasize what you said about all Americans. We're talking here about valuing each of us. We're talking about personal dignity. We're talking about how dominant society tends to belittle or minimize the lesser societies. I'm just thinking of dominant society deciding to name areas like Western people decide to call Mumbai Bombay, even though the people there call it Mumbai. Peking for Beijing. The Germans in Slovakia called Bratislava Pressburg. Just felt, just call it Pressburg. People minimizing the minorities, and here we're having a certain amount of evening of the score, and which is sort of cool. Maybe 100 years later, but evening it nevertheless. So I think that's very, very impressive, and I think all of us can identify with all this. And I want to ask Li Zhu what her thoughts are about her role in this, whether she's musing about it, thinking it's been one of the cooler things she's done in her life, or what. Li?
Yes, yeah, I like the, every year Chinese New Year celebration with all the friends in Carlin. Yeah, everybody had a real good time. I showed them how to make a dumpling. They're very happy. Yeah, and then also I put some coin, 10 coin, or over 100 dumplings. So whatever who got the coin, that means they will whole year could be so lucky. So that's one of the picture that hold a red envelope because they're so happy they got the coin. Yeah, even they don't have a coin, they don't get the coin, but they're still happy. We had a real great time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, very cool. If I may call on Margaret. Oh, by the way, let me say that you folks in the audience feel free to, if you have questions, write them in the chat box or else think about them. And Elizabeth will collate things and we'll be happy to call on you folks in a little bit. But right now, I want to call on Mayor Johnston and ask her about her thoughts. I'm impressed that the government of the area, the city, was completely behind this effort to dignify these heretofore unknown remains. Margaret?
Thank you for showing this, and it was a very big team effort. I worked with Lee too, and I worked with the state of Nevada to get the permitting done. And we went to the council and we talked about, you know, where could we put them, and the council decided to dedicate that whole section to the Chinese burial, and people just worked together. The people you saw burying the caskets, and that's our public works people working. And it was a great team effort from all the people in Carlin. I had Gary Wright and Les Tracy helping me build coffins in our driveway. Jan, I couldn't have done anything without Jan, my wife, helping us do all the legalities and writing and stuff that we had to do to get this permitting done. And Tim Murphy was and Donna were phenomenal people to do. They went and got them all on their own dime. I saw Su Fong Cheng was on there. She was the archaeologist down in UNLV. I'd love to hear her side of the whole thing, what happened, and because that's a missing link in our story of how they went from Carlin to Carson City. I know the Smithsonian Institute was going to study them, and then they were supposed to come home, and they didn't. They went to UNLV, and I would love to hear from her on what happened from there. But I thank you all for helping us and show. Can't imagine you put Carlin on the map, which is insane now because we are tourist stop, and I met so many wonderful people through this. The Chinese Benevolent Association in California, the Chinese Railroad Workers Descendants Association. And for a small town hick like me, it's been a heck of a ride and really a neat education and meeting wonderful people across this whole country. And China TV came. I've met people from all over the world, and I thank you all for this. And I'm the ex-vice mayor of Carlin. I am retired, just raising my Tibetan yaks and donkeys and mule rescue now. So thank you very much.
Well, Mayor Johnston, we're just thrilled to have you here today, and this is just a wonderful time. Lily, I'm sure you've got a lot of thoughts about this, and so if you would mind kicking off a discussion, I'd be appreciative.
Yes, I am absolutely impressed with all the people. I want to first thank all the people in Carlin, every single one of you, your generosity, your kindness, your love, your graciousness to make these 13 people have a resting place in peace. This is so important. And I heard in the film that we cannot change the past. We cannot. However, all of us should be encouraged to think about our future. The stories told in this particular film is one that we should remember and we should celebrate. So I want to say to everyone that there is a great deal of love, compassion, generosity in all of us. Let's make sure we use it. And this is absolutely a wonderful occasion to celebrate the Chinese New Year. Someone like Li Zhu, who came from Korea out of the Chinese diaspora, eventually traveling to a small town like Carlin. And she is a key member of the community, loved and respected by the people in Carlin. This is a great American story. This is the kind of story that we should promote. Small town Americans, generally speaking, are not well known to the rest of the world. But we have to put Carlin on the map globally. And believe me, we are going to do it. I want to thank Susan for traveling thousands of miles back and forth, for finding the people everywhere to help make the story a more complete story. What we don't know are some of the names of the Carlin 13. But we do know that they contributed to the greatness of America. So this is why we're here together. And I am so delighted that we have people watching today, all the way from Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all the way from San Jose, Costa Rica, all the way from Amsterdam and Hague in the Netherlands, all the way from Hawaii and everywhere else in the United States and other parts of the world. We want to tell your story, and without Li Qin, this could not have been done. A generous soul, a gentle soul, such a wonderful example of a Chinese person from the Chinese diaspora. So all I can say to you is thank you so much. This is a great American story. Thank you, Dr. Bob, for being such a gracious moderator. I'm sure everybody is so touched. Thank you. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for your words, Lily. And this does resonate with everyone. And it's cool that 100 years later, wrongs have been righted and people have been given a dignified resting place ultimately. And it was a group effort. It was the citizens of Carlin, Mayor Johnston, Li Qin, it was all of, and if it wasn't for Susan memorializing the movie, we wouldn't be here today. So it's just an amazing effort, and I'm very touched myself. Elizabeth, may I ask if there are questions or comments in the audience? And if you do have questions, folks, raise your hand, and we're more than happy to call on you. Elizabeth?
So there are quite a few comments to the effect of recognizing how poignant the story is. I think a lot of people really appreciate the work that both Lee and Min you've done to shed light on the story. There's a question from an audience member, and I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Pik Yi. They say, "Thank you, Ms. Li Chen, for your perseverance. We need more people like you. How many more of these unknown burial sites are out there waiting for acknowledgement? The railroad workers' contributions to America were tremendous." I don't know if you would like to address that.
Yes, and I know not only Carlin, it's almost each city, they have a lot uncovered, special Winnemucca, yeah, they have a, lot of, the buried underground, nobody know who it is, yeah. So not only Carlin, a lot of play, so it's so sad, so nobody knows who they are, it's very sad, I hope I have enough power to, to know, do a lot of research, find out who's their family, they can come back, maybe come back to Carlin to see, tell them grandpa, say, I'm here, yes.
Oh, well, thank you. It is interesting that the white society has minimized a lot of the Chinese experience, and it's only now that history is again correcting things. That photo that Susan had of the Golden Spike and the two trains, if you look closely at the people there were almost no Chinese people in that photograph, even though they built the railroad, which is an amazing fact how it got edited. Elizabeth, what else do we have out there?
Okay, so there's a question from a person named Janice. She's interested to know if there's, and I think the way that I interpret her question, she says, any connection to China to identify the other names that we don't know? And I think she's interested in thinking about the identities of the people that weren't able to be, that we don't know their names. I don't know if anyone would like to
Susan, do you have any info on that? Probably not.
Well, from my experience, only 3 people had their identifications. So we don't know the others 10 people's identifications. Yeah, but most of them were from Taishan, Guangdong. That's what I know. I didn't have much information to share from this point of view.
Margaret,
thank you.
Did Margaret have her hand raised or?
Yes, I did. The Chinese consulate got a hold of us when we were at the Promontory Point event, and they did find the families of some of them that were on the stones, and they were in contact with us. And Lee, do you remember more about that time?
Yeah, I remember we found the 3 people name, and we go to the 150-year Golden Spike ceremony, the party that night, and the people from China, they tell me they find the family, 2 people in China. Yeah, so good thing we find it, but we never see anybody come over, go to cemetery, to see it, that's I don't know why, If I know my family, even they passed away a long time ago, I will go see it, but I never heard anything about it,
Elizabeth? Oh, I'm sorry. Margaret, did you have any further thoughts?
Throughout the West, the Chinese worked out here after the railroad was done. They worked for the railroad and mining out here. So they worked in Cortez Hills, they worked for Tuscarora, they worked in Eureka. There's Chinese throughout the state of Nevada that have been forgotten, a lot of their history and stuff. The mining tunnels in Eureka are amazing what they've done. Lee's been down through them. I have not got the honor to go through them, but there's a lot of history here that hasn't been recorded that needs to be recognized and recorded.
I see more work for you, Susan. More videos. Elizabeth, what else have we got?
Okay, so there's a comment question from Kelly Wang. It's addressed to Professor Lily. She'd like, Lily, if you could speak more about how you think this American story could be used as a narrative to find new support for us in the mainstream American society under increasing Asian hate.
Wow, this is a very big topic. I want to say that from the teachers that I have worked with in the United States, many of them never learned anything about the Chinese contributions to the building of this beautiful country. And one colleague specifically told me that he did some research and he could only find a couple of pages. So here we are collectively thinking about American stories. The story today is clearly a story that needs to be expanded. We have to not only write up some more, collect more information, use the film as a platform to launch into more research and studies. And this should be shared by educators, not only in the United States, not only in the state of Nevada or California, but around the world. This is a global project that I hope those who are in the audience with us will continue to tell our shared stories. It is a story of Chinese coolies. It is a story of Chinese diaspora. It is a story about a Chinese girl who grew up in Korea, receiving a lot of discrimination, but grew up to be a person with great compassion because she understands the importance of kindness. She not only wants to talk about her kindness, but she set a good example of that. So just for that, Li Zhu, we will write your story. But more than that, all of us in education, especially those of us who are in higher education, we have the ability and the responsibility to impact generations of teachers, generations of influencers. We will not stop here. We will continue to do this. Whoever asked the question, I thank you for the question. It is deep in my heart, and I personally will make sure more stories are told. Thousands of workers drilled through the mountains in California, in Nevada, in other places to make certain that we can travel from the west of the United States to the east of the United States through Utah and so on. Let's think about those people who have no names, who have made contributions. Let us make sure our stories are heard and told. I am just so grateful for all of you here, for raising the kinds of questions, for plowing through the field, for continuing our search of excellence. So I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you, Lily. I thought this was a wonderful presentation today, and I was as impressed as anybody but everyone's role. Not to minimize the fact that it sounds like the entire city of Carlin came together, which is again a wonderful thing. I'm sure helped by Mayor Johnston and everyone else, and I'm completely completely moved by this. And again, we have a slide up here reminding you about the extremely cool, I hope everyone comes to it, the panel discussion on the 100th anniversary of Dr. Sun's passing. And we'll see if we see any family resemblance when we see Leland's son. And then the following month after that, the CBI Theater, and we'll talk about the Flying Tigers and talk about Generals Stilwell and Chenault. It'll be a lot of fun. And presented by Major General Chen, so which will also be wonderful. So at this point, I want to thank the presenters, and I'd like them to stay on for 5 more minutes. And I want to thank everyone who's listened. We always enjoy having you folks as our guests on these Saturday programs, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody next month. And don't forget about the Chinese Cultural Center presentations as well. And with that, I want to say bye-bye to everybody, although the folks who are the main participants will stay on for 5 more minutes, okay? Bye-bye, everyone.